Ground Zero. Welcome, my brother.
Good morning to you, Comrade Capo Daniel, the Deputy Defense Chief of Ambazonia Defense Forces. Good afternoon. Good morning to you. It's already Monday over there. It's only 2 p.m. here on Sunday afternoon. So, good evening, my fellow Ambazonians. Good evening to everyone on Ground Zero. Good evening to our people across the globe. Good afternoon to all Ambazonians in the continent of North America.
So today we are going to have a great guest, and congratulations to the ACN family. The new show, the interview on Vira, and our first episode with Larry Ayong, the former spokesperson of SCCOP, have brought in a lot of feedback and a lot of fire and fury, and we hope we will have him someday, and even so probably have more than one person at a time if the technical team will permit. But you guys are welcome to this new show. It's going to be airing every Sunday, once a week. We are coming online today on the backdrop of the massacre in Bongé. We want to let our people know that our hearts and our prayer goes for the family members. The governing council is working very hard at the corridor of diplomacy to make sure the international community can understand the magnitude. We also want to talk to the family of those who were killed in a Kondo Titi, that our hearts and our prayers are with those family and many more people who are being slaughtered on a daily basis by the Cameroon terrorist occupation military. So we are going to go straight into this program, which is a frank conversation with Dr. Gabila Nubong, our guest. And before we get into the program, welcome, sir.
Thanks, Capo, and good morning to you in Hong Kong, and good evening to Comrade Asu in Canada. It should still be afternoon, and good afternoon to your listeners. And thanks for having me. I enjoyed your first show. I felt that Comrade Larry did an exceptional job, and I hope that we can be able to live up to the expectations of your viewers.
Oh, definitely. So before we start, we come back to Dr. G. We are going to have a couple of videos to introduce our subject matter today, which is going to center around the role played by the diaspora community. We have a couple of videos that we are going to show to you, televiewers. And the diasporan community of the Ambazonian people have been firing and a big influence. And we were quoted by Donald Trump as one of the diasporan community in the United States of America. We have been mobilizing our people for over 4 years since the beginning of this war that was launched by Mr. Paul Biya Bivondo. We have had the various nationalist movements that have existed since La République du Cameroun occupied our territory from the SCNC, the Youth League, and all those movements that gathered and form the SCCOP, what we call SCCOP. And we had SCCOP, the emergence of SCCOP, who took the mantle from SCCOP from Dick Tassan Wilfred. And that was a joint platform. We saw the disintegration of those members, those nationalist members, and finally the transformation of SCCOP into the governing council and eventually the IG to the IG of SACO and the IG Care. And we are where we are today. And ladies and gentlemen, from the images, you can see that we had a very vibrant diasporan community. These images are from Washington, from America, with SESECO visiting the communities. People were enthusiastic. We had people protesting in the various in front of the United Nations. We also have protests across the globe. Especially, we remember the people of South Africa, as we have Dr. Gabila, who is from that community, who protested in the embassy and destroyed some property in the Cameroon embassy, who was trying to use that ground to propagate the one Cameroon of our territory. We also have seen the images coming from Europe, where the Ambazonian people stormed into a meeting that was organized by Laurent Esso and a couple of colonialists who wanted to use that embassy ground to promulgate the occupation of Ambazonia. So we have come a long way, and today we don't know if we can still pull that off, because we now have the emergence of the IG and the claim of government and the opposition and all the wrangling. So maybe the press secretary will want to say something before we bring in our guest.
All I want to say, it's a great pleasure to meet once again. This is a program we're going to be having every Sunday. It's a conversation about the Ambazonia War of Independence. So we'll be having a lot of guests with different background, different expertise, different experiences, with different perceptions and different theories. Today we have an exceptional guest. It's a political economist. So we are going to be having a very, what I call a no bullshit conversation, or just to be polite, a very frank conversation. So Dr. Gabila, welcome to the interview.
Thanks so much, Comrade Asu. Do you want me to shoot immediately?
Please, that's why you are here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So why do you think, before you go in, let me just throw this to you.
Yeah.
Where do you see the mobilization of the diaspora this time around, 4 years after this war of liberation? Do you still see a vibrant community that are willing to go out there and protest and let the population, the grassroots population, understand what is going on in Ambazonia? Or you think that momentum have shifted somewhere, or where do you see the population of the diaspora this time around?
Okay, Capo, I'm going to be brutally honest in my engagement. I'm not going to sway to any particular, I will not talk to please any specific tendency. In the last couple of years of having been in and out and observed and engaged in the revolution, I've come to get a sense of where everybody is and everybody feels. And I feel that the short answer to your question is we are demobilized. The mobilization we saw in 2016, 2017, 2018 is not what we have today. And that's for a number of reasons. Number one, I think principally it's because one, I think that we were not sufficiently mature in revolutionary conduct as far as our engagement in the revolution was concerned. We gave it our best. We put in a lot of effort, but the limitations of our engagements became very clear. Let me tell you a couple of things that have happened in the last 4 years. The one thing that has happened, and I'm speaking to you as strong cadre of ECOFC, and to the credit of Comrade Cho Ayaba and the ECOFC, the one thing that has happened consistently in the last 4 years is that the governing council has grown in strength, has grown in popularity, and has grown its ability to be able to exert itself. Having said that, and of course, I should say upfront that it has been to the advantage of all Ambazonians. It's been to all of our advantage that you have emerged to play the role that you are playing and that you have gained strength over time, But I cannot, what is the word? I cannot excuse you or absolve you of the responsibilities of some of the chaos that you caused, including the fact that you fought very hard against a TV and you don't have a brilliant TV, which I'm enjoying very much. Now, I personally am not going to build a monument around that because I consider those to be part of the things that we initially had to do robust engagement as part of a demonstration of how committed we were to what we are trying to do to be able to build. There was a time for that. When it came for the time for the ECOFC and the ADF community to see that communications is key, you have a brilliant TV that is doing enormous phenomenal work. That is how a revolution is supposed to be. We are supposed to be dynamic, adaptive. We're supposed to respond to changes. We're supposed to hold positions, come and evaluate them, and whenever we see the inadequacies of those positions, we move on. Constantly adapting to make sure that we are presenting to our people an offering that is both relevant and applicable to the time and the context in which we are. So to the credit of ECOFC, that's one thing you have done positively. Let me tell you what you have not done positively. I think that as far as maturing up to the role of playing the responsibility of carrying the leadership responsibility that you're supposed to carry, I feel that you guys have not, how do I put this to not sound politically incorrect? You have not manned up to take on the responsibility of leadership.
Dr. G, please don't try to be politically correct. We want you to be as frank, as sincere, as brutal as you can possibly be.
I will try my best.
As this show is a frank conversation with Dr. G.
That's
Please
right.
feel
Yeah.
free. Do not please
I,
us. We are not.
yes.
We will not suppress
Okay.
you.
I, I,
Express
I,
yourself.
I'll try my best. So here's the thing. And I'll give you just two examples. Number one, when this revolution, in this phase revolution kicked off in 2016, 2017, 2018, Sisiku, Julius Ayutabe, and his whole team, the people that were the team that was abducted at Naira, they emerged as a very strong voice and face for our revolution. And of course, they were dealing with lots of challenges coming from different directions. They had to deal with lots of people who were involved in the revolution and trying to get involved with them who were not completely sincere. I mean, Capo, you know the story from Conclave 1, Conclave 2, Conclave 3, Conclave 4. You know the story behind the construction of the government, how we moved from the governing council to the interim government. You know the story of the participation of Dr. Troya at those conclaves. Let's not kid each other as how things have evolved. Today, I'm one of his greatest champions, but I'm going to tell you that there were incidences and instances in which Comrade Sisiku at the time called Dr. Cho in, you know, as he did call a host of a number of other comrades. I'm the clowns like Bo Herbert. Sorry, I call him like a clown today because of what he has proved to be the last couple of years. And some of our senior brothers like Akwanga. I was not totally sure what they were all about, but there was a time when there was a platform created where Sisiku extended the hand and said, hey, Comrade Choyaba, come and let us work together. Now, because of the nature
Dr.
of
G. Dr. G.
Yeah, give me 30 seconds to close that idea, and then I'm going to hand it back to you.
Yeah, before we get into
Just give me
that
30
seconds, which is something I know.
Just give me 50 seconds to round up that idea, and I'm going to give it back to you.
Go
I know
ahead,
you want to fry me, but let me fry you first.
Go ahead.
Let me come back to that. And I'm saying this, to come back and credit Comrade Choaya, but that in 2020, 2021, he is the one defending Sisiku in jail. He's the one extending a hand of fellowship to Sisiku in jail, which is positive to him. But I don't want to kid any egg of GC people to the realization that there was a time when they were called to come to the table and they did not come to the table. And that we had to pay the consequence of they not coming to the table. Of course, we would not have wanted Ayaba to be abducted with the rest of the leaders. Today, in hindsight is always 2020, right? Everything that happens in hindsight, we can see clearly what would have evolved. But who knows what the course of this revolution would have been if the team of C came to the table at the right time. Maybe the revolution will not be in the hands of the charlatans that we have today.
Let me just say that since the 30 seconds have gone past the pendulum of my clock, Dr. G,
you get my drift.
First, let me go back to where you started your analogy, talking about the creation of the SCBC. At that time, I was a member of the SCCOP, a supporting member as a community of the people of China, and Mr. Lucas Asu was independent. We were not members of the ECOFC or the ADF, but we were saving everybody as activists. By then,
right,
it was a brilliant idea, and I think the governing council's position was that television was too expensive to be paying that amount of money without us buying guns. Their focus of that organization was to arm the boys and to train the boys. So I guess there could be a middle ground and say that they could be wrong or right. But that said, we as activists, we had complaints because the management of the SCBC would only allow groups or activists that are friendly towards the governing council to come on that show. I had difficulties to come there and air my show. John Bakuru, Bo Herbert, and many other platforms that were advocating for the Ambazonia revolution were not admitted to the team. And I was part of the shareholders representing the community of China by then. So to be fair, Dr. G, I think that the whole running and opening, the running of the SCBC was too partisan for many Ambazonians, and people were complaining. They were showing toy shows there. They were not living up to the expectation of many independent activists at that time. But it was
that's my point of departure. That's my point of departure. You see, and as we go along, you would see why I started at that point. You're going to realize that hindsight is 2020, and your explanation that you have just given tells me one thing. You treat with your analogies with kids' gloves, right? So you are very fair and understanding and just to yourself and to the council. But you do not extend the same grace to the other groups for the decisions that could have been made and perceived as wrong at the time, for which they needed to be afforded an opportunity to learn lessons. Now, the reason I'm coming to this is not so that we should apportion blame. It's so that we should each appreciate the fact that we evolved under difficult circumstances at the time. We made decisions that we figured were the best at the time, and that those decisions, rightfully and wrongfully so, carried us through for that season. It is a revolution. It is not a laboratory experiment. It's a social science out in the society. We learn from our mistakes and move on experience. Now, granted, I think we all as Ambazonians then need to come to the maturity of conscience to say that what were the mistakes we made in the past? How can we move on? That transitions me to the bickering that I hear is a strong narrative within the ECOFC about the whole question of the formation of a government versus a movement. No, we are a council, you are a government.
I don't know if Mr. the press secretary wants to say something.
That was the second thing I wanted to
take it step by step.
I just transitioned to that because that was the second thing I wanted to chuck your legs a bit about. Because
Mr.
I'm very
Secretary,
brief.
do you have something to say? Do you want to say
No,
something?
very briefly. Give me 20 seconds.
The
Let me make this point and then I'll
Dr.
get back.
Dr. G is our guest, and we want Ambazonians to hear from him. Let him give him enough time to be able to speak his mind and speak truth to the people. That's all we all right. So, Dr. G, you said you need a little bit of time to finish your point. Finish your point so that we can move to
thank you, Asu. Thank you, Asu. You are the man. Capo, if we flip this conversation, we start talking about IGK, you will have no idea the things I'm going to say. So please just permit me to be generous to ECOFC. I support the people that I criticize. That is how I demonstrate support. If I don't take you seriously, I don't bother to invest my intellectual capital on you. There are some people I hardly barely talk about. In fact, all of 2021, I think I mentioned Akwanga once. You know, I gave him an award for the most interesting leader in 2021.
Why is that? Why is that?
There's some people that here's the thing, and here's the thing in a general sense. When people build a lot of expectations upon you, they take time to examine what you do, you know, and they can give you feedback that you may consider very critical. But when those some people turn around and defend you vigorously, I think it's a sign of endorsement and approval. Capo, on the question of government and governing council, for me, it's semantics. With the formation of every revolutionary movement, revolutions strive on the existence of well-organized, well-resourced groupings. You can call yourself what you want to call yourself. Ambazonia, we have not known a few governments. I feel that we need to really get to a point, and this is why I want the ECOFC to come to the party. There is a critical formation. The key to the functioning of this revolution is well-organized, strong, well-resourced groups, well-coordinated with key leadership. That's it. It doesn't matter what those groups call themselves. As far as the ECOFC is concerned, since the abduction of our leaders, you have proven to just be that you are putting some thinking into your actions. You are a well-organized, you have your weaknesses like all of us we do. You're a well-organized, well-coordinated, well-resourced, very strategically led group. Now, the ECOFC needs to demand that of the IGK for the sake of the revolution. There's one thing that you're asking them to do that's not going to happen. You're asking them to dissolve the government and come and join the ECOFC. It's not going to happen. Not today, not tomorrow, at no point in this revolution. For the simple fact that the dynamics of group organizational mobilization is that people tend to coalesce around affiliations. It doesn't matter what they call themselves. The people of the IGK are a group of comrades that understand each other. And they would mobilize together and they would fight together. The people of the ECOFC are a group of people that understand each other. They would mobilize together and they would fight together. Let us stop placing expectations. You can call yourself the governing council. They call ourselves the government. They call themselves kind of thing. As far as the revolution is concerned, and I'm going to come back to the issue of the government and tell you where I agree with you. But as far as naming and nomenclature is concerned, I feel that we are chasing shadows. What you need, Comrade Asu, what you need, Comrade Capo, is a well-organized, well-resourced, well-funded IGK. Internally,
All right.
I've told
Okay,
them that.
Dr. G,
Yes.
stay there with that conversation. So, after 4 years, how organized is the IGK? How well structured is the IGK? Because let's forget the names. The names are just phrases to give us, how would I put it? To help us to understand the structuring of something. That's all it is. All right. So linguistics, the names is just a meaning. The name is just a meaning we attach to something. So how organized after 4 years? How organized is the IGK? How well structured is the IGK? How well resourced is the IGK in relationship to where the Ambazonia War of Independence is and the threats the people are facing?
I'm going to answer that question honestly. I will not try to be politically correct. And I'm going to say the following. Number one, the IGK took from 2018, January 2018, when the letters were abducted, the IGK took 2 full years to recover from that abduction. And just give me a couple of seconds to explain that. Because the abduction of the leaders of SCCOP and his team occurred at a time when institutionally the IG was in transition. When the people came back from the fourth conclave, one of the things which the Advisory Council of the Ambazonian Committee South Africa pulled the leaders together and told them, including a message that was sent to SCCOP, we told them that we understand why you want to form a government, but you have lost the mobilization platform that existed in SCCOP, because people could identify themselves to SCCOP as a politically, ideologically driven entity that had branches all across the world as a mobilization platform, but nobody identifies itself to a government. Now, that was institutional transition that SCCOP had been given a responsibility.
So that was a fundamental mistake.
Granted, completely granted. But it was in response to circumstances of the time. It was a fundamental. As you look at, remember, I told you that hindsight is often 2020. When you will have had an opportunity 2 years down the line, and it was not just a fundamental mistake that we registered after 2 years. I am telling you that when they came back from the fourth conclave, we convened a meeting and we told them that, guys, this is a strategic error. It's a strategic error because people don't identify themselves to governments. When you form a government, people come up and occupy positions of responsibility and they start thinking like technocrats. But they don't have an electoral mandate. They don't have national or natural resources to fund the government. And so they end up hanging in the air. And that has been a sickness, permit me to say, that has stayed with the IG up to today. There are some comrades that have become institutional furniture in that structure called the IG. They're just there. They're not adding value. They're not coming up with new programs. They're not driving the revolution in one way or the other, but they carry titles: secretary of that, secretary of this, secretary of that. What exactly do you do? I don't understand. I give you a simple example. We've had this whole institution function like that for the last 2-3 years. But when you listen to the stories coming out of our prisoners, the leadership in detention under the difficult circumstances in Konegi are the ones organizing care for our refugees, for our ITPs, for our internally displaced, for the prisoners. What in God's name is the whole secretary of HSS and all those fancy titles? What have they been doing for the last 2-3 years? If people in detention have to be the one that organize feeding, legal costs, healthcare for people for themselves, for all the people in the 5-6 other prisons, for internally displaced, and for our refugees. So we made a strategic error at the time because it caused a demobilization from the base. The bulk of the people that were engaged in trying to mobilize resources to advance the revolution, they stepped back, and then people came forward with titles and all of us sat back and were waiting for them to perform. It did not happen.
Dr.
Now,
G.
yes, so I acknowledge that was a strategic error. But let me go on to say, and I'm saying this to say that the AGOVC and our ADF brothers should therefore not build a monument around that. Please, for the sake of the revolution, for the sake of our people. Because
I
not
think
all of them
this
will
is
come
a frank conversation. This is a frank
Yes.
conversation. And as much as we sometimes we just go with the flow, it's also good to take things chronologically so that we can, with the old broom, can sweep all corners of the house. So just for the record, like you said, the diaspora community have, for the most part, been demoralized or demobilized.
Demoralized, yeah.
It is also very important for our people to understand that
Just two things. I'm not going to explain. I'm not going to explain, Capo. They have been demobilized for two things. One, we dismembered the structures of mobilization before we created alternative structures, SCCOP. Number two, the initial people who came on in terms of leadership responsibility mismanaged the resources. So people stopped giving. Those are the two reasons why I think they're mobilized.
I think even though they have been...
Dr. G, there is a third component. There is a third component to the demobilization.
I think before you go
besides
there,
the primary,
I really want us
you
to
finish
point
first,
the fact that. Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. No.
I just wanted to point. I think it's very important for our televiewers to understand that even though, in terms of mobilization for people to protest, have scaled back, it is almost non-existent. But in terms of financial mobilization, our people are more mobilized today than they were 4 years ago. So we do not have that motivation to go out there and protest, because it has been something that have been done for so long with very little result, even though we had some acknowledgement. But our people are today more mobilized financially. We raise money today that we could only dream of 4 years ago. Go ahead, Mr. Press Secretary.
What I wanted to add to what Dr. G was...
from an AGOVC perspective or from the Ambazonian community perspective?
No, when we speak here on this show, we don't talk like people from the AGOVC or the ADF. We have put off that cap. We are now putting on our activist cap.
Right. So I don't know if Comrade Asu, would you agree that we are more financially mobilized today than we were 4 years ago?
Mr. Lucas Asu.
I can provide you with some of the facts and some of the data we have. We have been at the forefront of all these happenings. The third component of which you were saying is that transition took place, but they lack to build alternative infrastructures for the new regeneration of resources for the revolution were not put in place. All right. So that's a key mistake that was also made. Now, the division that took place, the SCCOP is out, they picked them up in jail. The division that was in place, the second mistake that was made, their VP, whosoever VP XS, whom we came to know was Mr. Weber, never showed up. I and Comrade Capo Daniel, when SCCOP was abducted, and his team, we had a series of meetings overnight to come up with a new plan to start to push for this VP SSXX to be made public to fill in that gap. It took about 3 months. Nothing happened. All of a sudden, SACO emerged because that gap was not filled by their own processes and procedures and policies. From nowhere.
It was a buckle up.
It's okay. We understand.
It was a buckle up. And we can only tell from hindsight, because Comrade Asu, when of course you know what happened, right? We went into a two-stage process of designation of leadership, and then politics took over, and then the democratic vote pointed to one candidate that people felt was going to be a nightmare, and they figured that Dr. Common Sense was going to be the better option. So they massaged the process and then gave us a monster.
So in other words, they made an election and SACO lost the election. but the cabinet that was full of XXX decided to manipulate the system and declared Sako the winner, even though he lost the election.
No, Capo Daniel. Since we're speaking on air and this is going on the record, we have the responsibility to inform our people accurately.
Please go ahead.
For what I know and I speak under correction, the electoral college was modified. There was a restricted electoral college. I don't know. There was a restricted electoral college that was made up of, I think, country reps and a few cabinet members who went on vote. And here's the thing. One, the point of departure was that to establish balance
Dr.
of strength.
G, you're talking about cabinet
but what
members.
I'm saying is
cabinet members were already.
No, guys, let me answer the. Let me answer the question. It's a very important point you have raised. It's a very important point you have raised for the record.
The IG, where the country heads.
No. Let me answer the question.
That was agreed upon, and Sako lost the election.
No, Capo, you're asking me the question. Let me answer.
Let him answer the question, please.
Let me answer the question. To the best of my knowledge.
Sako lost the election.
No, wrong. It's a no. It's a no. I want to tell you what happened for what I know.
The election. Because
Sako did not lose the election.
Well, the election.
Then maybe
the first vote they conducted, which I have the minutes of that meeting, the country heads were called upon to vote for who to choose between Sako and Chris Anu. They went into a vote. The numerical victor was Chris Anu, and the cabinet.
Yes, you're right.
Decided to say that Chris Anu.
Yes, you're right. You played with my brain. See, you played with my brain when Sako lost the election. I was going to say Chris Anu won the first. Yeah, no, you're right. You used you asked the question in a reverse and then you played on my brain. No, so let me explain what I want to answer the question, right?
Go ahead.
Yes, you're answering the question.
Right. No, I'm answering the question. So of course, for the sake of clarity and because we are speaking truth to our people, okay? The first electoral college that came in, that was constituted of country reps, like I said, had before you come down to the choice of the two. Before the electoral college was convened, there was a political decision that was taken, which is already anti-democratic in itself. A political decision was taken that this leadership should be handed to someone from the southern zone to establish a balance between the northern and the southern zone. So the process from its onset, from the thinking, which comes from a good place, but it was not democratic in any sense. And of course, like you say, when they went to the first round of elections, Chris Anu emerged as the person who was supposed to be the leader. And a few of the cabinet members figured that he was not going to be the most suitable person. They reconvened the second set of votes, expanded electoral college, and then Grand Jakatu emerged as the leader of the of the IG. So that's what happened.
The person who led the change of the rejection of the choice of the victor of that election was the person which we know is the brother of Fayengo Francis, who goes by the name Yengo, whatever name he calls himself there. He's embedded in the IG. We think that guy have been manipulating the system.
But also, Dr. G. Also, Dr. G, just to be fair,
in which you may be making the argument. Yes,
Dr. G, just to be fair,
the argument that
if the argument was that they wanted someone from the southern zone, right? If they wanted someone from the southern zone, Chris Anu won the election and they wanted someone from the southern zone. Is Chris Anu not from the southern zone? He's from the BLM.
No, Chris Anu. So Chris Anu, and so the whole question of wanting somebody from the southern zone informed who were the candidates that emerged in the elections. Let's not forget that Barrister Harmony Bobga was leading that 3-man transition team at the time. Let's not forget that you had people like Atam Milan, you had a whole host of people who had leadership credentials. But there was a political decision that had been taken that the leader and the
political decision was taken by who?
The person that led have the transit.
Yes, the political decision was taken by who?
Manipulation is somebody.
The political decision was taken
by somebody.
The political decision was taken. The political decision was taken by the leadership, by the leadership collective at the time. You know,
Dr.
by the
Gabila,
leadership collective at the time.
appointment.
But Capo, let me say one more thing about that. Let me say one. Notwithstanding the decisions that were taken at the level of the leadership at the top, we must not forget that the basis of the IG structures at the time, which was driven by country leaderships, was pure and extensively democratic, because all of the people who emerged as country heads, myself inclusive, at the time when I served, came out of electoral processes. So they were duly voted representatives of the people from the constituencies that we're dealing with. So there's a sense in which you can say that this was like a collegial. It's like what happens in U.S. elections. You vote senators. Senators go into Senate and designate who the president was, of sorts. So that's what was happening. So the first stage elections of designating of leadership at the head of the IG structures went smooth, without any structure. It was democracy in practice, thumbs up. When it came to getting cabinet and the representatives together into the hall to make a decision, they decided who they decided with. So, but I don't want us to build a monument on that. I want us to pass on
Since
that.
we are having a
I'm only
frank
coming back.
discussion, before you go ahead, there
Yes,
is something that is very important. There was less than 30% of the constituent member of the country heads that were actually voted by their people. The South African being one of those that had democratic election. The constituent where I was and was part of in China, the person who was the country head, Mr. Muma, who is a very corrupt person in China, was never elected. The person in Finland was never elected. There were a lot of people that I know in that system that were never elected. Nevertheless, there was a mole within the ID that we had been talking about for a long time. We believe the mole was involved in the process of getting SACO on the board of SCCOP before the whole thing came out. We had discussed and gave this warning to SCCOP and many people of the IG that the brother of Fayengo Francis was embedded in the IG, and he was the main person engaging in political backdoor deals to get SACO as the leader of the IG, and he succeeded in a process where he could not succeed because they had agreed that they want somebody from the southern zone. They chose two candidates. They voted the person that he did not want, and he manipulated his way and have SACO at the helm. Before people could realize what was going on and calling SACO as a mole that was embedded in the revolution, it was basically too late. He is now carrying the crown of the IG, and it is very difficult for SCCOP to take back that crown from him, even though he's an impostor.
I mean, I agree with you. I'm one of those who have, for the last 3-4 years, held onto the theory or the postulation that SACO is a move. Okay, I've thought long and hard about it, and I cannot judge and come to any other conclusions from all of his actions. I don't understand why they are hard on the leaders in jail. I don't understand why they're hell bent on burying the people in prison. I don't understand why they take resources and not direct them to the right places where they are supposed to be gone. I don't understand why they are hell bent on projecting themselves as a predominant good. There's a revolution to be prosecuted. 9 out of 10 times, anything you hear coming from that group is we are the legitimate government, we're the ones you're supposed to talk to, including they are rushing to go to the Swiss process. So they are all about it is us, we are the government, we're the ones you must talk to. This is the president, this is the leader. There's a whole amount of posturing that has nothing to do with a revolution for the liberation and transformation of the lives of our people. It's all posturing, it's all attacking other groups, it's all embezzlement of resources. Of course, the individuals in themselves, they don't represent much in terms of character, in terms of leadership acumen, in terms of personal accomplishment. So if as Ambazonians, we are actually really fighting to see a societal transformation, if we fought all this fight like this for all these years, end up with someone like SACO, who goes and spends money that has been contributed on himself, in luxurious shops, sleeping in luxury hotels, eating in expensive restaurants, on the people's contribution, changing cars and changing houses, it would have been we would have been peeing and spitting on the blood of our people who have died.
But Dr. G, this is
what we are fighting for.
Yeah, but Dr. G, this is why he's a mole. That's what moles do. Those are the characteristics.
I totally agree with you on that.
Take it from Banda.
Those are the characteristics and the behaviors of a mole.
Exactly.
Those
I'm
are the
taking from
characteristics and the
Mbandam.
behaviors of the mole, you know. But
Yeah,
but
because
but but Comrade Asu,
Mbandam clearly
their
said that.
agenda is dictated, prescribed, monitored. All right.
funded.
By the Cameroon government.
Yes.
And Bandam actually came
So
out and said in an audio where he was arguing with Iringwa that he personally hired Iringwa, who is the top deputy of SACO, he's the manager of SACO, and employed her and have been given huge sum of money to them.
So
But
so
that
so
said,
so
I
so
think
the
that
question that I Capo, the question I want you guys to help me ask the Ambazonian people is that in the face of all of this evidence, how do we explain that there are still people who are following these people?
I don't
That for
believe
me
there
has
are
no,
been
Dr.
my
people
G,
puzzle for the last
Dr.
4
G,
years.
I think Dr. G, let's change that question. All right. In the face of overwhelming evidence, all right, because they came from the the IGK has to bear the responsibility of Samuel Sako. The IGK has to bear the responsibility of Chris Anu. All right. These are fragments of IGK. What is the IGK doing? That's the question we have to ask you.
Comrade Asu, you know that we organized the APNC. Okay, we organize the APNC, we organize ourselves. That is when, and these are two things. So I take partial responsibility for what you are saying. Okay, to say that that was part of the outcome. But first things first, you know that as part of an institutional transition process, it was an extremely difficult feat to accomplish. That is why the APNC was organized to click reset to the IG and its institutions. And that's why SCCOP endorsed the creation.
Which I and Capo Daniel were the only two Ambazonian activists that helped, supported, and promoted the APNC because we knew what you guys were up to.
Yes, so I just want our people, at the sake, since we're talking to our people up and above all, I want the people to understand the steps that the IG undertook to remedy the situation that they faced. Let's discuss the question of DPXXX. And as part of my notes preparing for this interview, I had made a point that I was going to talk about Honorable Weber as a specimen of Ambazonia leadership, of Southern Cameroonian leadership, or West Cameroonian leadership, whatever you want to call it. Because you go up to the rostrum of the parliament of the enemy, you make a bold statement in support of a specific cause. The people are mobilized globally in response to your call. When the opportunity is presented for you to come and take leadership, you back down. You don't only back down, but for the last 4 years, you go silent. We don't hear anything from this guy for so many years, and then he pops up and he's telling us to go and take the COVID vaccine. Ambazonians
did you read his biography?
Including his
Did you read
biography,
his
Ambazonians
biography?
are where we are. We are where we are
Dr.
today
G,
because
let me shock you.
of this
Did you read
kind of
the
leadership. I'll come back
biography
to
of
the issue of the
Honorable
IT.
Weber? Did you read
You
his
want to give me the
biography?
biography?
Your
Including his
Honorable
biography.
Weber.
Including the release of his biography.
I don't know some of this our pa. Honorable Weber, in his biography, says that Seseko Ayoktabi was begging him to come and take the helm of the IG care. And he refused because he did not want to get into this our type of politics. Completely distancing himself from the IG. Somebody who accepted to be the vice president and remain anonymous will come out, will not take responsibility, will not even accept that he was the XSS and throw Seseko under the bus. These are the type of corny politics that our people have to know that even great heroes should not blindly follow.
Our people then need to then realize that, you see, I like the fact that we're unpacking these things. When I criticize the IGK, I don't put on soft gloves. I'm very hard on them. That's why a number of them don't like me. But when you bring up issues like this, our people need to understand that the IG and Comrade Yerima have evolved under extremely difficult circumstances. They have not always been on top of their game. I have been one person who has been on their case. I've exited their forums. I've insulted them. I've told them that you guys are joking. You don't know what you're doing. But to their credit, they have dealt under extremely difficult circumstances, constantly placing trust in people who let them down. And I wanted to call out, actually, if you look through my notes, I made a mental note that I needed to call out Weber in this thing. for letting the people down. Because when there's a call to say that leadership must emerge, and people turn to people whom they expect is supposed to provide leadership, he's playing politics. He's polishing his image and waiting for people to be killed in their millions, so that when we call for a grand negotiation and we want to get who are all the stakeholders who are supposed to come around the table, he shows up as the person who gave the speech in the parliament. That's cowardice.
He wants people to. He's afraid of his salary. He don't want to lose his. Maybe he don't want to lose his salary. His benefits from the parliament.
Somebody should cut out this clip and send to Honorable Weber. And I've said that Dr. J has said he's a coward.
Ground Zero is watching, so he will definitely.
Yeah, he's a coward because when our people expected him to show leadership, he put his tails in between his legs, went and sought refuge in the UK, and he's waiting for a time when an opportunity is going to be provided for him to come back and say that I was the one who started this whole thing. So we are dealing with the leadership crisis.
Parliament.
You know, and so we are dealing with a leadership question, and I like the fact that we're talking with Comrade Asu here, who's a leadership expert. We are suffering from the lack of the depth of leadership that needs to emerge outside of our people. We have, imagine we had 10 Dr. Choyabas in this revolution. We'll be very far. Because leadership is vision, leadership is sacrifice, leadership is ability to identify a course and stay on the course. We have leadership of different kinds. Leadership is ability to be able to inspire the people and tell the people that this is what we are fighting for, this is why it is necessary, these are the sacrifices that we need to make, this is the plan we have. Leadership is able to come and present a plan to the people. You say, this is the direction, this is the roadmap, this is navigation, this is the signboard, this is where we are going. And this is why you must make the sacrifices now to get us where we want to go to. But for every instance where the revolution has had an opportunity for such strong leadership to emerge and provide direction, the people that we have depended upon have let us down. We have leaned on people and they have proven to be a fundamental, how do I put it, a profound mess. From Guiba to Sakoi Kome to... where is Elvis Kometa? He's my big brother. Let me call him out.
Mr. Babila, I think you have hit a point that I want to come back to. And you have said that we have relied on people that have failed us. Don't you think this is the main problem we have? And I'm not blaming anybody because we did not prepare for this thing. This is a problem. We rely on people instead of relying on institution and relying on principle. This will take us back to the whole transformation of SCCOP. When Tassan Wilfred emerged as the leader of the Ambazonia Rising and had the first conclave, the constituent members of SCCOP was a property of the nationalist movement plus the consortium. That means all the nationalist movement that formed SCCOP, including the Ambazonia Governing Council, including the Ambazonian movement of Godidinka, including Maurice, they were like the parliament. They formed the constituent, and in the contract of SCCOP, the resolution, it clearly created the leadership council, which was a supervisory body over the executive branch of SCCOP. But when SESECO emerged, as Dr. Larry Ayong, I'll give you a chance to respond to Dr. Larry Ayong, had claimed, Atta Milan was using SESECO to manipulate the system. What happened was the leadership council that was supposed to be governing the affairs of SCCOP were completely abandoned. And today you find the people of the IG who think that the IG was a group that belongs to them. As a matter of fact, the IG was a joint platform created and owned by the constituent member who came together to form it. But people have hijacked it because at that initial stage, it looks, with the emergence of SESECO, a very powerful and brilliant, selfless individual. People thought we could rely on an individual rather than relying on the institution that created the emergence of that individual. And SESECO tried his best, because I worked with him closely, to make sure that he respect the leadership council. But Atta Milan, who had a lot of problem with these people, they just isolated the leadership council and they dissolved themselves. And then he came and replaced them with the country heads.
That's fine. But Comrade Capo, Look, as Dr. G has pointed out,
the monster we created was that the SCCOP, instead of following the leadership of the Leadership Council or taking orders from them or getting validation for their policy on them, they instead started to rely on SCCOP and acting independently, and actually kicked out the nationalist movement and transformed themselves into in a group.
That's fine.
Capo, let me answer that. Asu, if you may,
okay,
let me
go ahead,
respond
Dr.
to
G,
Capo.
so that I'll follow after you. Go ahead.
Okay, Capo, let me agree and disagree with you. I agree with the narrative to a certain extent. I disagree with you on one point. The sickness that we have as Ambazonians is that we do not take time to let institutions that we are forming to grow to maturity. That's number one. Number two, we come from a culture of personalities. We relate leadership to individuals. When we want to see that an organization is well led, we tend to associate it to individuals. We do not have a culture of institutions. The proof of my thesis is the following. The people that you are calling constituent members of SCCOP that come from nationalist movement, who are the nationalist movements? List me those people and... No. This is the point I'm driving at. Of all those 8 in number, how many of them could come to any of those SCCOP meetings with a registered member list of 100 people? Apart from
all of them. You have Maurice had a big constituent member. Let me give you.
Excuse me.
Maurice was a big constituent member. The group of the Republic of Ambazonia of Godidinka is highly reputable. The group of
no, I'm not talking about
SCNC,
reputation.
led by
Capo. I'm not talking about reputation. There are groups like SCNC that are long established nationalist movements with a leadership base and a leadership structure. There are groups like ECOC that can fit that criteria. But then and now, anything you call Morris was in Bose Herbert's suitcase.
But
Morris
at that
was
time,
Bo Herbert and
according to
that
the law, we're
we're not talking about law. We're talking about institutions. If you're going to build, get the point I'm trying to make. If you're going to build a nationalist council that is made up of constituent bodies, the reason I'm making an insistence on this point, Comrade Capo Daniel, is because it is one of my recommendations that we should go back to those models. And I'm not talking about models that just start and end with the Council of the Nationalist Movements, but I'm talking about models that tell nationalist movements to go back to the grassroots and mobilize at the grassroots and build organizations.
Don't you think this is the arrogance? This is the arrogance of South Africa that have led to the coalition of the former SDF people to come and hijack this thing. Because there you are.
No, you're a conspiracy theorist.
No.
Capo, you're a conspiracy
theorist.
There's no substance in what you made.
How can you, Dr. Gabila, a specialist and a researcher who have done so well academically, things that the constituent member that created an organization, that organization who is a child of that assembly, would turn and tell the assembly that you are not qualified? So long as
no, it's not organization. You're getting me wrong.
The resolution that created SCCOP, the resolution that gave the name SCCOP, and that gave the mandate of SCCOP and appointed its officials, have the right of its own and ownership of that.
Dr. G, please, Dr. G,
for you,
just for you and Comrade Sako.
No.
Dr. G.
Comrade Asu, let me respond to Capo. Capo, you got me wrong. You did not get the point I made. My response to that question about the legitimacy of the council.
I think that. Look,
let me just wrap up this thing with Capo.
There is something about Ambazonians.
I'm not arguing that the nationalist leaders were not legitimate to constitute a council. The response I get to that is that as Ambazonians, we do not give time for institutions to mature. That was my response. I wasn't negating the point we're making, because we created one institution before they mature. We created a second institution. Case in point, Morris was an umbrella organization. I attended the meeting that was organized in Washington, D.C., made up of nationalist movement to build what we called Morris. Before Maurice had that meeting, Elvis Kometa was there from the SCNC. The SCNC sponsored that entity to bring Republic of Ambazonia, SCSC. Akonga attended that meeting. That was the first mobilization platform. Before Maurice could mature, Bo Herbert pocketed him and carried himself as representative of Maurice to go and join SCCOP. The same entities that formed Maurice are the same constituent members that formed SCCOP. Hence my point. We don't give time for institutions to mature. And when SCCOP was formed, the same people, Comrade Choayaba, who were supposed to be invited to drive the process, boycotted the meeting systematically. Nobody can be blamed. So that narrative that has been brought against South Africa is a false narrative. We must blame ourselves as a people. We don't give time for institutions to mature. And we need to change that.
We don't give time. We don't give time for institutions. We don't give time for institutions to mature. Secondly, Ambazonians are always trying to want to go back to some past, to some glorious past. Oh, the glorious days of SCCOP. Oh, the glorious days of Cameroon and Ambazonia. All right,
it was glorious.
Ambazonia have a tendency.
But don't you think that this one is
It's human nature.
This pandemic
I'm
this
just saying.
that we have.
No, I'm just saying.
I think it's human nature.
As if we can actually rewind time and go back. So instead of looking at...
no, we can't. We need to look forward.
Okay. Number one, we can go back. Number two, even if people try, we are now in 2021. We are no longer in 2017. That's number one. That's the first thing we have to recognize. The circumstances have changed. The revolution have changed. Errors have been made. Mistakes have been made. Organizations, whether intentionally or unintentionally, Ambazonians are where they are today. The questions which all of us Ambazonians are interested is not just, regurgitating this past. All right?
Right.
I mean, it's relevant just for the learning purposes. But other than that, it's just garbage. Number two, what do we do where we are to move our people to where they want to go? So
I like that.
Let me ask you this question.
I was prepared for that.
All right, I want to ask you this question. Where we are today, how can the IG care remedy it? Can IG care and IG SACO?
Are you for real?
I'm just asking.
You just said we can't go back to the past, and then you draw a conclusion, and then you are giving me an IG care question.
No, this is the question I'm asking you for us to move forward. Is it possible? How can we as a people, looking at the IG care, now we have two governments. We have IG SACO, we have IG SCCOP. All right? How can the AGOVC and the IG care and the other IG, I'm just saying, how can Ambazonians find a way in which we can focus on the priority of protecting our people within these three structures?
Let me give you an honest answer. Let me give you an answer that I think is a realistic answer.
Okay.
The division, and it builds upon everything that we have discussed up to this point. If we all sustain the assumption that Comrade SACO is a mold, it has two consequences. It's either an unfounded suspicion that means that there's a lack of trust, or it's an established fact that means that he cannot and does not qualify to count as one of us.
Okay.
If you build on either of the two assumptions, either a breakdown of trust that says there's lack of confidence, or an established fact that says he's working for the government, it means that we would not be being frank and honest to ourselves if we foresee a collaborative model that factors him into the equation. So my way forward suggestion is that the Joint Commission, and Capo knows what I'm talking about, the idea behind the Joint Commission and the emergence of a collaboration between Comrade Choayaba and Comrade Sisiku would hold the key to drive the notion of collaboration moving forward. And I could elaborate on that. So I have come from the end. That is my final point recommendation, and I'm going to elaborate. I feel that we should pursue a model of collaboration that is conditioned upon driving groups to build strong organizations that are well organized, membership based, well resourced, with a leadership culture that maintain their identity. Look at the model of the UN. Countries of the world are members of the United Nations as member organizations, but they do not stop being countries. But the United Nations as a council has a multilateral governance responsibility. It has a secretariat, it has a secretary general that is implementing multilateral issues on behalf of member states. But the president of the United States is still the president of the United States. That is the model of collaboration that I think that our people are supposed to follow. Comrade Cho Ayaba recently went through the process of being elected president of EGOFC. He has a vice president and a whole team of leadership. I believe that, and I am advocating for a model of collaboration that follows the UN systems model that says constituent assemblies should maintain their individuality, but delegate people into collaborative councils. So it's a very simple structure, a UN-based structure that is membership-based, that has just 3 councils: a council for diplomacy, a council for humanitarian action, a council for self-defense, a secretariat, an assembly of elders that serves as advisory council. So 4 simple structures. This becomes the Ambazonian Liberation Authority structure, National Council. And I propose that as an example that can be drawn from the South African Revolution. Even though National ANC, African National Congress, emerged as the predominant entity that fought and conquered liberation, you're going to realize that the Freedom Charter, and which I was going to share with our people today, the Freedom Charter that eventually emerged to become the basis of the South African Constitution, was drawn up by a group of 7 different organizations. 7 different organizations that came up and agreed on 10 principles. You had the South African Communist Party, you had the African National Congress, you had the Council for Colours, you had the Council for Indians, you had some other council for Congress for Democracy, you had a Federation for Women. There were 7 organizations that came together and formed the National Advisory Council, or the National Council, drew up the Freedom Charter based on 10 principles. The principles are there out there. But one of the principles was that the people shall govern. They identified the issues of the time and then said that we may have our individual characteristics and ideas, but we do agree on the following 10 principles. The people shall govern, the land shall belong to all those who live in it, education shall be provided for us. You can go through their 10 points there, it's easy to find on Google, but you're going to realize that those 7 organizations agreed on 10 principles that says, even though we have our individual leadership structures, our individual philosophies, I mean, the ANC was a national liberation movement, South African Communist Party was completely communist, you have something that was advocating for Indians, their diversity was established, but they were internally coherent and internally organized. That's what I think we should do. I've told my people
Dr. G, to be internally coherent,
yes,
basically, okay, right now we are facing a threat where the priorities of the revolution have to be the liberation of homeland, irrespective of the differences in ideology. All right, this will exist.
Yeah.
That will not change. But we cannot. All right, that will not change. But the main priority, regardless of groups right now, in terms of the protection of our people, in terms of the threat they are facing on the ground, all these politics can be going on. But if the basic understanding, just let me finish my point. Basic understanding, as you've pointed out, the IG care, from our perspective, we're looking at all of these groups. If we put them all together, there are only 2 groups. There is the IG and there is EGOFC, predominant groups, powerful groups. Is there a way in which they can agree, for example, on a self-defense project? I'm just saying, the IG care, the EGOFC, say, hey, can we start by agreeing with just working together on self-defense on the ground for the liberation? Can they start there and start to build trust?
Comrade Asu, Your question is answered in the simplified collaborative structure that I have proposed. Why am I insisting on this? Here's the thing. Well-organized groups are well-resourced. There is built-in accountability. Because this is one of the challenges that we face as a people. We are we are like children in the marketplace. There is no iota of revolutionary discipline as far as concerns how people participate. Let me use the examples there. Let me use examples. There are activists in certain organizations that the leadership of the organizations cannot tell them shit. They are total loose cannons.
For example,
go on the rampage and they go left, right. No, let me finish. This is a very important point, Capo. Because if we are going to no, we're having a frank conversation.
He's asking you to give examples.
You want me to give examples? The devil is a liar.
Wants you to give examples.
But let me make this point. Let me make this point very clear. This is why I'm insisting that we are supposed to have well-organized, well-structured, well-resourced groups. We need revolutionary discipline. If we do not have revolutionary discipline, we cannot coordinate self-defense. Capo, you are involved in this thing. Anybody who says self-defense is getting into a territory where it is precision, is extreme discipline. Because when you lose, you snooze, you pay in human lives that are irrepressible. So we are too indisciplined as a people. We are supposed to get organizations. Let me finish this point. We are supposed to get organizations to organize themselves. It's supposed to be a requirement. Capo, the nationalist movements that came into the Constituent Assembly of SCCOP, nobody placed any requirements on them. They came in there unchallenged. I am saying that we should tell people, go and bring us a list of 200, 300, 400, 500 registered paying members. You give them the responsibility to go back and build their base. So that when that leadership comes and talks and is sitting in a council, it has 500 people behind it. If we have just 5 groups like that have 500 people behind it, we're talking about a leadership council that is talking for 2.5 million people. It changes the dynamics. If those 2.5 million people go into a defense council and decide that we want RPGs, we want this, we want this, we want this, it is one leadership meeting, comes up with one resolution. Those 5 delegations go back to 2.5 million people. The money comes up in 24 hours. We cannot win this thing if we are not organized, if we are not disciplined. We are kidding ourselves. It's not going to happen.
Dr. G, you have said something that is very, very important. We need this structure, this political understanding for us to be effective, even get into what the press secretary is saying, for us to focus on what really matters, because as we speak here, our people are dying by the day. We do not have the luxury of time. Time is on the side of Mr. Paul Biya and his country. In the joint commission, where you have the governing council and the IG, they have come together to try to reach out this political agreement. I have served as the ambassador of SCCOP in the IG care, so I know the inner workings of the IG. I have also served as a top aide for the governing council, and now I serve in the ADF. So I've read the political arrangement that was agreed. They had an agreement, as a matter of fact. But the elephant in the room, which we should not deceive ourselves, is something that is going on with the IG. That the IG do not just as a Semitic call itself a government. They do see themselves as a government. And somehow they actually believe that the governing council is a government.
Capo, I'm sorry. Let me catch you. Let me catch you and let me. Sorry, let me catch you there. Let me catch you there and say something that you may not appreciate. I think that this is part of. I think that this conversation about the government
that you can have a political agreement with somebody who sees himself already as the head of state and his institution as a government.
Capo, grow up. Tell the people in the ECOC to grow up. Find diplomats and delegates, lock yourself down in a room with representatives of IG Care, throw the key away, and don't come out of that room until you reach an agreement. We'll be complaining for how long?
We have arrived at an agreement. Dr. G, we have arrived at an agreement. The agreement have never been accepted by Siseko Ayoktabi. This is the truth. Siseko sees himself as the president. You may not believe it or not. What they have to know, as a matter of fact, is that we are playing this game and we are delaying our revolution. SCCOP and
No,
the IG
Capo,
have to
Capo,
know that
Capo.
they are
This is
not
a
a
frank
government.
conversation.
There is
Capo,
no government. For you to claim,
Capo,
let me finish. For you
Capo.
to claim that when you say that you are a government, Dr. G, let me finish and then I'll give you a chance to talk. When you say that you are a government, you have allocated yourself the sole power to represent the interests of the people. You have denied the other groups the equal opportunity to represent that same people, because a government owns the exclusive right of sovereignty. The sovereignty of our territory does not belong to us yet. So we cannot accept that a group will consider itself as a government and its leader as the head of state. This is wrong, and this is getting into
Okay. I hear you, Capo. So what do you propose? What's your solution to the problem you just posed?
The first thing,
what happened?
The first thing is, after the emergence of Sako and his disruptive behavior, that the IG had to be forced to go into the APNC. We all agreed in the IG, me being a cabinet member, that it was a mistake to create a government. Dr. Carson Anyangwe, who was the founder of the whole...
Capo, I'm pushing you to take us to the point of the way forward. All of that is water under the bridge. All of that is water under the bridge. And listen, and this is why I'm sorry, permit me, you're my friend. After this, I'll press you. I'm taking
let me answer you.
Hard on you and on all ECOC people, because you guys are sounding like broken records on this thing. You created a government, it was wrong, you are not the government, it's not supposed to be that way. And what is the way forward? What do you want them to do now?
Let me tell you what I want them to do. Milton Tucker came to SCCOP, where all the activists were. He said that we are in a transition from the whole government thing. That is why the Restoration Council is called a Transitional Restoration Council. We are going to transform ourselves out of this idea of a government and even change the name of the IG. We don't want the IG to dissolve. They have to stop this nonsense that they are a government.
So, okay, Capo.
Us how dangerous this ideology is.
Comrade Capo. So are you saying, Comrade Capo, please, Dr. G, just give me a second. Let me ask Capo a question. Comrade Capo.
Okay.
Are you saying the Governing Council of Ambazonia is afraid to bring IGK onto the table and create a working arrangement because the IGK considers itself as a government, which is just a bullshit notion? This is bullshit.
The Governing Council have agreed. The team of SCCOP in the Joint Commission have come to a political agreement that have been endorsed by Carson Anyangwe. That agreement was given to SCCOP and it was put under the table. Till today, SCCOP have not agreed because he still sees himself as the head of state and the
Capo, listen, Capo, my friend, you are above that. You know, permit me to say this. I say this to my own hurt.
Dr. G, I'm going to show you a letter right now, which I forwarded.
No. Let me respond to you before you show me a letter, because you spoke and I did not respond. Let me respond to you. It's very important I respond to you, because we are talking to the Ambazonian people. I want every single member of the ECOC to jump off that boat. You're flogging a dead horse, because nothing will come out of it.
No, Dr. G, it's not even about ECOC. Dr. G,
and the IGK love the title of government so much that they don't care about
the point we are making for
our revolution.
Dr. G, the point we have to make to Ambazonians is that
these people don't love us. These people cannot.
No, you let me talk. I let you talk. Let me address that point. If we are having a frank conversation,
you're not addressing that point. You are addressing me.
No, I am addressing the point.
Don't address me.
Okay, let me address the point. Let me look at the camera and speak to all of the people of ECOC and all Ambazonians. This is what is fact and this is true. Let me speak to Ambazonians. The sociology of group formation says that people come together and establish affiliations on the basis of affinity. When they organize themselves and they mobilize, there is no entity outside of that internal structure that can define or dictate to that group how it should transform itself. That is why I'm telling you, Capo Daniel, and all of our people of the ECOC, that it is an exercise in futility going on and on about this argument about government or no government. You say we are government, we say you're a governing council, we say you should dissolve and form something else, we say that you are also governing. At the end of the day, you have two things that are important: a group of people organizing themselves. I am telling the people of the AGOVC that instead of hammering on this issue of government or no government, require of the IGK to organize themselves into a membership-based organization, a political organization, or whatever you want to call it. You are going to serve Ambazonians better because they are not members of the government. You can say that people do not represent you as government. We have 4, 5, 6 governments in Ambazonia. Most people don't even know who they are. So it's a totally irrelevant point for you guys to continue to dwell on. Nobody has elected anybody anywhere. It's a given fact. If I choose to call myself president or emperor, why should that bother you? So I'm employing you and employing... I'm employing
when it becomes a factor in collaboration. How do I collaborate with you when you don't believe
that I have... It does not affect collaboration, Capo Daniel.
It
Capo Daniel.
It does.
No,
let me... That stands on the way. And
Dr. G.
Dr. G. Let me finish on that point.
Ideology,
Capo Daniel.
When he goes to ground zero and ban everybody else and say that you don't have the right to exist, it's either you join the government or not, because the government have an exclusive power to carry government.
That's not SCCOP. That's Chris Ano, and I really want you, Comrade Asu, you need to help me on this one. You know, the AGOVC needs to be consistent. You cannot, in one voice, call Sako a Kome and Chris Ano a mole, and on the other hand, use their activities to be able to use to beat the IGK. Let's be consistent. We have called them moles. They're working for the Republic of Cameroon. Nothing of what they do represents us. Let's put that to the side. Let's look at ourselves, you know, as entities that need to collaborate. And you must not treat yourself with kids' girl because you are not innocent. You are not without fault. So I'm saying that we are all supposed to grow up as organizations. The AGOVC, you are doing a good job. We have commended you where you are doing a good job. But leave this thing of government, because it is
Dr. G.
that you constantly pour on the fire that causes us to be knocking our heads. Let us get ourselves into councils. Let us form a self-defense council. You do recognize us. You recognize us as an entity that you can collaborate with. Get us into a council. Let's talk self-defense. Get us into the council. Let us talk diplomacy. Get us into the council. Let us talk humanitarian action. Forget about the way we call ourselves. You cannot restructure the IPK. So stop trying.
No, Dr. G, I agree with you 100%. The whole notion of this belief that because the IGK calls itself a government becomes a barrier of collaboration, I call it fucking bullshit. All right?
It's bullshit.
It's just fucking bullshit. What we need is the will to make collaboration a reality for the Ambazonia people.
Don't forget that there are children that are watching us. So mind your language.
It's okay. Children, you know, sometimes they love that.
I got you there.
Just, you know, it's language. So,
yep.
So what we need is just the honesty, the sincerity, and the will to tell Sisi Kwayok or Yerima, this is the priority of our people. We have to work on this. That's what we need.
No, but you can't do that. You cannot do that. Let me tell you.
We don't need the excuses.
Asu, let me tell you that. Let me tell you the arrogance of that statement.
No,
just as nobody can tell. Listen. Let's be honest with each other. You must understand
with you that the AGOVC is using that as an excuse. It's an excuse.
The AGOVC
that as an excuse. We have
agreed. We recognize the IGK as
is a leader that has people under him that he works with, that he answers to. We need to understand we're dealing with two groups of people here. And we must then bring ourselves to ask ourselves the questions: how do you get these two groups that have lots of potentials to push all their best elements to work together? At the moment, nobody's asking that questions. We are just like kids in a play park at each other.
Let me ask you directly. You, Dr. G, you said in this program in the beginning that you support the people that you criticize. Why is it that there in South Africa, every time they hold a Zoom conference and they invite you there, you have never donated a dime to the ADF in that Zoom conference in South Africa?
I have my reasons, and I'm not going to speak on camera.
That is a problem. That is a problem.
It's not a problem.
Have the IGK, who is a collaborating who is a sister group to the governing council. They will not do certain things because they think that they will give advantage to us, and the enemy is taking
No,
advantage
you've asked the question that speaks to Dr. G as an individual, but you cannot say the same thing
Most of the
for the
members of the
no,
IGK will do the same
no.
thing. Okay, let me give you
No,
something.
no,
When we
that is a
came to celebrate
completely
the National
false
Day,
assumption.
let me tell you how
That
this
is
thing
a
play out, Dr. G.
no,
When we came
Comrade
to
Asu,
celebrate the National Day, let the technical team put the flyers of Dr. Cho's visit to South Africa. When we come to celebrate our National Day on the 1st of October, Yerima decided to withdraw because he wants his face to be in front. He must be my face in front.
On, Capo Daniel, let's speak at age and let's speak our age and speak the level of maturity. These are not questions that we're supposed to be dealing with
let us go down
the
to this.
public domain.
Our people, we face a common enemy that is fighting our people.
Our people deserve to be treated. Our people deserve leadership. These are organizational issues. Get these leaders into collaborative councils. They will deal with these issues. It is not on social media and the public domain that we're supposed to come and ask questions and deal with issues like that. It's a sign of immaturity of our leadership. Comrade Asu, you're a leadership expert.
All right,
the
Dr.
things
G,
that
let's
discuss with the things that we are supposed to out from collaborative perspective. That is why I said earlier on, the points you are raising are very legitimate. Why have we not handled it? Because we are not mature enough to handle it. Look,
in terms of the committee have done their job.
Lock these leaders up in a room and throw away the key. And ask them to engage.
He will go and stay with SCCOP there and they will agree there because our people
agree.
And SCCOP
yes,
to come out with
that.
political agreement. We will put pressure, like we say in the public. We'll put pressure
Dr. G, we've heard your point. The Ambazonia people expect
on a serious note, on a serious note, jokes aside, in a revolution, issues of this nature will arise and they are resolved by people using backdoor channels to build trust and knock on each other's doors until they get answers. That is actually the mechanics of nation building. Because we will have to be doing this for the rest of our lives, and we'll have to teach our children to do this. The act of negotiation, the art of getting the other person to see from your perspective and get to do things the way you want them to be done. It is the sense of the lack of maturity in leadership that we have not demonstrated that causes us to continue to dwell in these same problems. And I am saying that we have to and can solve that. Let us get people behind closed doors. Let's stop this bickering on social media where we are talking to peace and fire up our fan base. Leaders are leaders because they lead. And providing leadership is part of solving problems. So if there are leaders in the SCCOP and there are leaders in the IGK, those leaders should lock themselves up in a room, write out the issues, and resolve it. If they come out with solutions, then they earn the right in the sight of our people to govern and to lead. If we cannot solve basic problems like that,
I want us to go away from
ourselves as leaders, how do we then go and lead?
Dr. G, we want to ask you this question. What would you propose for Dr. Ayaba and SCCOP Ayoktabe that represents the major groups that speaks for the Ambazonian people? What would you recommend for them?
I would recommend that both of them sit down and take the lead. I would recommend that there are difficult questions that cannot be resolved in the immediate. Capo knows what I'm talking about. I listened to a bit of some of the things. Go for low-hanging fruits. SCCOP, as the political face of the struggle, should be strengthened across the board. Dr. Cho Ayaba, as the rebel leader or as the leader of the liberation face, as the face and the image behind self-defense, needs to be supported across the board. That is the framework of the recommendation. How do you work that out in detail? What we have been trying to do is to collapse people's individual identity and wanting them to come into a single structure. Sociologically, anthropologically, it is not feasible. It cannot happen. What I am proposing in return is to ask for each of those individual identities to strengthen themselves, place themselves under conditions, objectives to grow membership, and then delegate people into a council that will forge the terms of collaboration. Whatever happens, a strong political message needs to be sent forth that there is a political representation that is a collective of leaders in jail. The world needs to know that the leadership in jail are in jail because of all of us. The leadership in jail and the leadership out of jail and in all of the engagement need to send one strong message, that for every message in terms of the stabilization force and the approach to self-defense on the ground that Dr. Choyaba is putting forward, he's putting forward not for the ECOC or the ATF, but on behalf of Ambazonians. That is the broad-based target objective. But Capo, I want to tell you that for us to attain that broad objective, it will not happen on social media. We need to get people into boardrooms from the organizations to nail out the details. Negotiations in international sectors extremely difficult. So people sit down and negotiate for 10, 12, 14 hours before they reach a breakthrough.
Oh, yeah.
Putting a negotiation team, negotiating detail by detail by detail. But there's supposed to be a broad-based political agreement and a memorandum of understanding, a political statement that says that these people have decided to become alliance partners. I spoke of a tripartite alliance, but a tripartite alliance needs to be driven by the ECOC and IGK. They are supposed to sign a political memorandum of understanding to say in broad terms, we have agreed to cooperate. They are not supposed to give the details of that cooperation to our people, but it sends a political signal to the international community and to our people that these two major groupings have decided to work together. Now, it is up to you and me and all of the hardworking people of the IGK and ECOC to sit down, lock ourselves in the room, and work out the details of that collaboration. Because guess what? When it comes to the actual management and the governing of Ambazonia, that is what we will have to do to provide leadership to our people. We will not be governing the people on social media or on television channels. We will have to sit in boardrooms and take tough decisions, agree, disagree, fight. But when we come out of that room, we send out the white smoke like when the Pope has been selected. The white smoke, it says that we are coming out with a broad base to say that the coalition met, the alliance met, it deliberated on ABCD, it came out with resolutions. It's a process of maturity in the management of political affairs. We owe ourselves and our people that, and we are not there. We are still too childish.
Dr. G.
I wanted to go to it.
No, Comrade Capo, let me ask this question because I really have to exit. Dr. G, I want to ask you this question before I exit. Is it possible for these two organizations, as you've said, to mature themselves and see that each person has a role to play, both organizations have a role to play, both leaders have a role to play, and it is for the greater benefit of the Ambazonian people in order to give our people this sense, this strong sense of stability, of post-independent political stability? Is this possible for both of these leaders to recognize each other? First of all, I want to ask you, can they recognize each other publicly? Can Siseko Ayoktabe also recognize Dr. Ayabacho while he's in jail?
Absolutely. Absolutely. As you ask a very, 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 very important question. This is going to be the first test of our maturation as a people in demonstrating to the national community that we have the kind of maturity it takes to govern ourselves. The act of striking deals, the act of being able to define the common good, the art of being able to identify who is like-minded. We do not need to agree on everything 100%. We are not going to agree on anything 100%. Sure. That is why there's political contestation. We can agree to, like they say in politics, we're not in politics, but in politics, there are no permanent friends. There are only permanent interests. And at the moment, our common interest is Ambazonia. So yes, these two people have the obligation. It is a necessity to come out with a political agreement that says that we have formed an alliance that has a broad set of strokes. We agree to work in diplomacy. We agree to work in humanitarian action. We agree to work in communications. We agree to work in resource mobilization. We agree to work in self-defense. That can be the broad 5 strokes of the Memorandum of Understanding. Now, it therefore then requires each group to send its self-defense experts, send its humanitarian experts, its diplomatic experts, its resource mobilization experts, its communication experts to go into councils, to go and work out the details. And then we need to have a high-level political, I call it political for lack of a better word, a high-level political council of top leaders from the organizations that make decisions and speak for the alliance. We also need to have a high-level group of elders respected across the board that may not be head of organizations, but speak for the people by virtue of legitimacy. Such that if these two people are not agreeing, they should have an elder they can default to. An elder that is going to tell them that no, for the sake of the interest of the people, this is the approach you're supposed to adopt. But when it comes to the working out of providing signaling for direction of how the struggle is supposed to be governed, it's a 5-stage process. Leaders collaborate, they get their technical guys to work on specific sectors. If there's a disagreement at the level of a specific sector, they gravitate it right up, they escalate it up to the political council. If we cannot agree on the political council, we shelve it. We advance with what we agree on. We put on ice the things we don't agree on. If we engage, we do not disagree, we do not continue to agree, we come out and we're honest to our people. We don't agree on this.
Is this a model? Is this a model?
It's a model.
Is this a model you're looking at for the transition authority, or this is a liberation model? Which one?
It's a liberation model. Let me answer your question even with more specifics. It's a liberation model given the context of our current configuration as a people. We have no other option. Because if we had had a sense when we got to this liberation phase as a single unified homogeneous entity, we could have pursued the model of a liberation led by a liberation leader. Comrade Capo Daniel, this is frank talk. From today till we get to Ambazonia, some people who would never accept Comrade Choayaba. It does not negate the good things that he's doing. There's some people who would never accept Comrade Sisiko. From today till we get to Ambazonia, it's a part of human nature. Should it stop us from working together? No. This is where leadership comes in. Leadership then becomes a bit to be able to rise above this little pettiness and see the big picture. To say, what is this person's strength? How can we make it work? Ultimately, post-liberation, we would get into the formation of a liberal, democratic, meritocratic state that's going to be on the basis of participatory democracy. That each of these people can take their individualities to our people, and our people are going to vote for them and give them the right to govern, the right to lead. But in the liberation phase, we need revolutionary leaders. And if a revolutionary leader emerges that has a group of people that assembles around it, let us strengthen that pole. If another one emerges, let us strengthen that pole. The stronger the individual group becomes,
in your assessment, in the current Ambazonia War of Independence atmosphere, has Dr. Cho emerged as a liberation leader, considering what he's been able to project 2019, 2020, 2021, with what he's been able to do that no other movement has been able to do in the last 4 years in terms of his defense strategy, defense structure, public mobilization, public education, the projection of Ambazonia? With such leadership, has he been able to demonstrate that?
Comrade Asulukat, do not become an Angama lizard that falls on the ground and you know, you say that in my
what I'm Dr. doing, Dr. G. Just a question though, because that's what you said.
I'm not saying it all. My answer is that, and on a more serious note,
go ahead. It's all right.
There are some things that are very obvious, right? But our people will take time to get there. Now, I am calling upon the sense of revolutionary consciousness of the people of AGOFC, of Dr. Cho Ayaba and his leadership team, to understand that you are not where you were in 2016. You are not where you were in 2017. You have taken time to prove yourself. Allow the people to crown you. If you understand what I'm saying. Do what you're doing. Do what you're doing, and do what you're doing because you're doing it for the people. It would naturally emerge that this is obvious. What you would do if you try to precipitate that process, is that you're going to turn people away, and you're going to what is the word? You will have a premature birth. Everything is beautiful in this time. Keep on doing what you're doing. But as you are
Okay,
going
Dr.
through
G,
that,
I think we
allow
are,
the people
yeah.
allow the people to grow into an understanding of the role that you're playing. But, and let me say this again with insistence, and I really want you guys to take this back to the team. You have an obligation. I don't want to call it responsibility. You have an obligation to help the IG care recover from the catastrophe of the last 2-3 years and build a formidable, solid organization. You are not going to do that by beating them on the head.
That is true. That is true. And Dr. G, you know, as I say, we
Yeah.
are running out of time. Nothing good lasts forever. But we'll get
All right.
into this lightning round that I'm going to go with you. And this
Yeah.
take us back to our wonderful country there in South Africa, where we have a lot of powerful Ambazonians that have been so much instrumental in leading this liberation movement. Dr. G, you took the leadership of Amba South Africa, but you resigned within 1 year. What was the reason for you to resign from that organization?
Capo Daniel, I want to be very modest to our people. South Africa has a crop of very, what is the word? He has a crop of very dedicated Ambazonians that are sacrificial, that give themselves of absolutely in everything that they do. The entity which I took over, he had internal issues. It had internal issues. I'm not sure yet if I want to be totally open and transparent to Ambazonian people about the internal wranglings of that specific entity. But the short answer was I took over a very political organization that had an established constituency that had built, had godfathers, people who almost believed to themselves that they own the organization. And I'm a very politically savvy person. You know, I can read an organization and see where the power play is, and know who are the people who hold the levers of power and what it takes to be able to lift that organization or dump it. I had a choice to either be revolutionary, focus on contributing to our people, or burning down and playing the politics. I opted out of the politics. I told myself that this is not why I came into the revolution. We are not doing what is the word? It's not we're not in a race to prove ourselves to each other. We're in a race to bring liberation to our people. And the entity that had established godfathers that felt entitled to the definition of how things needed to be run, including heavily influencing members of my cabinet against programs and actions that we were trying to put in place, I figured that it was totally an unnecessary investment of my time to go and try and start fighting these people in order to prove a point. So that's why I stepped down. I stepped down very quietly, you know, and just to tell myself that no, it was not something that I needed to invest myself in at this time, you know. Um, uh, there were some great people that I worked with. There's some people we did some very brilliant things in fact, when we took over in October, by December we put South Africa back on the map. We invited the DP to come in here, got Mark Barretta in here, revived the thing, visited our people, started a whole work of revitalization, grassroots mobilization, reviving the revolution, and so on and so forth. And then I would convene my leadership meetings, and former leaders are going to rock up at that meeting uninvited, hijack the agenda, keep us arguing for 3 hours. I miss important meetings that I've set up with South African stakeholders because I've set up a meeting and there's some underlying gymnastics, brag going on. And so I just got to a point where I told myself that
Group, the Amba South Africa was created by SCCOP, right?
no, Capo, I wish I could sit down and brief you about how South Africa is configured. South Africa it's a very dynamic configuration. There's a strong ECOC presence. There's a strong previous, let me put this way. In terms of political direction, in terms of the big groups, there are people who coalition around specific leadership personalities. Yeah. And these are people that, for the most part, the bulk of them are former SDF comrades. They have been in the resistance for a very long time. They've been working with each other. They have a long history together. So they moved from
Vampires.
SDF.
Doesn't
They moved from SDF into Ambazonia Community South Africa. From Ambazonia South Africa, a couple of them decided to go and create SCCOP, while the others stayed in Ambazonia Community South Africa. Some of them went into other organizations. To their credit, these are very brilliant activists. I do not say this to denigrate them. I'm just giving you a picture of what is happening on the ground.
Jump in because we are running out of time.
Yes.
When Nalova came out, she made certain very strong statement about the creation of SCCOP. Since you are a member of SCCOP, she said that SCCOP was an idea of Atta Milan, who wanted to become the president of Ambazonia one day. So he created SCCOP as his political party, something like that.
Nonsense.
Are you, as a founding member of SCCOP, was Atta Milan the creator of SCCOP?
No, nonsense.
You
Absolutely nonsense. Ambazonians are supposed to know that SCCOP is the brainchild of the Advisory Council of the Ambazonian Community South Africa. SCCOP was born the day they came back from the fourth conclave, and we told them that you were wrong to create a government. And let Ambazonians hear this very clearly. When we told them that you were wrong to create a government because CACUF has lost its mobilization platform, we immediately looked into our South African experience and said that the African National Congress is the revolutionary mobilization platform next to government. Let us form a revolutionary mobilization platform that is going to provide a support structure for government. That's how SCCOP came about. How did Milan end up as head of SCCOP? Ideologically, I'm telling you, as someone who I sat through the meetings, the name came from.
This question is coming from my SCCOP friends, and the people in the governing council will always say Capo Daniel always have a little bit of the IG in him. So, but I want you to get this moment to clear the air, and
let me clear the air. So the idea was since the government has lost its political mobilization arm, let us create a political movement that would mobilize, like the ANC, like the African National Congress, like the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, to support government. At the time, I was totally new to the whole revolutionary movement. There were two principal, how do I put this? There were three principal figures that could head that organization from their past experience. It could either be Milton Taka, Atta Milan, or Roland Chebufu, because those had been previous past leaders of the Ambazonian community in South Africa. And to be fair to Ambazonians and to all these three entities, of all the three people, the only person that I had a long established relationship with was Roland Chebufu. Milan, I just met him first time. Milton Taka, I just met him first time. Milton Taka could not become the head of SCCOP, even though he sat in the meeting that led on to the establishment of that entity. We had several consultations. Capo, we worked for almost 6 months, back on back, 6 10-hour meetings. I remember during the Easter break holidays of the 2017, we went and locked ourselves in a guest house, worked till 3 a.m., slept at 3 a.m., woke up and started working at 8 a.m. to 4 p.m., building SCCOP. I can tell you the people were in that meeting. Milan was not there. Milton was there. Milan connected to that meeting by video conference. When it came to designate
how did Milan became the president of a group that he did not participate? People may like to know how did
Milan did not participate because he was not physically located in South Africa. He has a UN job that takes him to travel around Africa.
But his spirit was there.
No, Capo, don't tantalize me. I'm answering a very serious question here. So all of these people in South Africa were organizing themselves. Our interest was to provide a political movement to support the government. Milan had just fallen off the governing council. He had been under a lot of pressure. People had been insulting him and doing all kinds of evil things about him. He had taken a break from the IG, and he figured that he had been unfairly treated. He needed to come back. Milton Taka and Roland Chebufu told Milan, your reputation is not at a place where if you take on this organization at the time, you will help the organization. You will bury this organization if you take it on at this point. They advised against setting up Milan as the chairperson of SCCOP. But me, they all approached me, and I mean, individually
So how
said,
did Milan become the president of SCCOP?
No, he was legitimately elected. We built up the structures.
Milan is popular among the constituent of South Africa.
He is. And Milan, for everything that you may say about him, Capo Daniel, I've worked closely with Milan. Milan is one of the most efficient comrades that we have in this revolution. There's
Mr.
something
Dr.
that
you like somebody who is not afraid of people, and you always say your mind. I'll get to you. You say what you want to say. Dr. Larry Ayong, who was a former SCCOP spokesperson and have been very close to these leaders, he was on this show in our first episode, and he made some very powerful, damaging statement regarding Atta Milan. He said that Milan was intoxicating Siseko Ayoktabi and made it impossible for Siseko to collaborate with other nationalist movements, and his personal problem overshadowed the term of Siseko. With all those strong statements made by both Nalova B regarding Atta Milan, made by Larry Ayong regarding Atta Milan, made by even on the show of Tori of Najela, Madame Najela, we had the lady of SCCOP there. I think everybody know that one. I didn't even want to quote her here, but you have Princess Harriet also says a lot of damaging things about Milan. Irrespective of the popularity of Milan in South Africa, do you think he has a positive role to play if you inject him? Don't you think it will undermine the opposition against him is so strong that it will undermine anything he may want to do in good faith or not?
Capo, South Africa is a country that has a very high, I would say, has a very high revolutionary consciousness. At the time when Milan was under fire from the rest of the international community, we as a nation, we took the decision not to throw our comrade under the bus. As a matter of revolutionary
camaraderie.
No. It was not for camaraderie. No. It was not. It was not for. It was not just for Capo Daniel. Capo. Listen.
Was it the
you and I have a certain.
Let me ask you, Dr. G.
No. Let me finish. Let me answer your question before you go to another question.
Registered member of the SDF.
I wouldn't be able to tell. This is something in the long past. I wouldn't know. I did not know them when they were then. I just know their history. But let me answer your question before we move away from that, because you asked a very important question. I need to put that out for Ambazonians to know, to clear. We made a principled decision. It was the same decision of principle that made us to make him the chairperson of SCCOP. Because the things that Milan was being accused of, we sat him down and we asked him questions. He gave us answers. Long before he came out and explained what was happening in the rest of the world, he gave us answers, produced evidence, we examined the evidence, and we saw with what he was saying. And then we made a decision as a country that we were going to stand with each other. And I think that it's important for a revolution. Capo, I'm supposed to defend you until you prove me to the contrary. And I felt that in Milan's shoe, I would have expected the same protection from my comrades. Because if the whole world is coming against you, the first line of defense that you have are the comrades with whom you're in the trenches. I'm saying these are people that we spend 6-8 hours together. We eat dollar at 3 a.m. in the morning. The least we could do was to have Milan's back. Not out of a blind support because he's from South Africa, but we examine the issues. This is the first thing. Secondly, as far as Milan's influence around Siseko is concerned, Capo, you need to understand that of all the entities, and this is the contribution of South Africa, of all the entities that contributed to the first and the second and the third and the fourth conclave, South Africa came in as one of the most consistently organized groups or countries. We have a higher than available political and revolutionary consciousness because of the country in which we live in. So when people got to conclaves and started playing politics, or started playing revolutionary machinations, it was obvious that you were dealing with people who were not blank checks. You were dealing with people who had revolutionary credentials, and they outmaneuvered them. The issue in this specific issue of the governing council and the IG, it was not even Siseko or Milan. The red herring here was Tasang. Tasang, in terms of his ability to manage the Secretariat of the Governing Council as an efficient administrator, something that Milan is, something that Tasang is not. Tasang had political popularity and support from ground zero, but he was not an efficient administrator in terms of keeping finance and records and all of that. And the Governing
That's
Council
why he
needed
was
that.
voted out.
And that's
Dr.
why he was
G,
voted out.
we have come to the end of the show. As they say, every good thing has an end, and we are very happy to have you. I go want to talk for you for all my country people for Ground Zero, where they watch you, where they not accept me, who come for their house through their television for ACN. Saying that Dr. G this, Dr. G with our people the way they suffer for Ground Zero, they die. The immediate thing for them now they're survivor, and self-defense now the most important arm, as well as the diplomacy, because if they fight, they no get person where they talk for international partners them, then the fighting is not going to go nowhere. So wait till if you talk about our people, then now they never Ground Zero, they fight, they fear terrorism from Cameroon military, our people then from Bongair for a Kondo Titi, and as well as their expectation for the leadership then where they for outside. Wait till if you talk about our people them for the language where all we they talk as I they talk for you so.
Capo, I just want for tell what people they say, may they choose me. May they really forgive. I really want to apologize, ask, tell them sorry on behalf of all of the leadership in the diaspora. We will try our best. We also don't let them down in so many ways. I feel very bad about the situation of internally displaced people or people in there for bush. The people that refugee them for camp. Our brother and our sister they inside bush, they don't put up their chest for defend we. Our leaders them for jail. I feel very sorry, say, as the diaspora will never always get our acts together. And I want to promise them, say, as they say, me and you would talk the shout on top of this television station. So now because we try to get our act together, we get the people who get a responsibility to protect. We also get a responsibility to care. Our responsibility to care now for make sure say as we want share two bread with our own picking for diaspora, we'll take one, send them for Mammy day for bush, send them for people day for prison, send them for people day as refugees them. We get that responsibility to care. I feel very bad saying our leaders they inside jail, they for begin to organize chop for prisoners the way they for inside prison. Now they give for begin to organize for CCCOP they be their medical bills and be taken care of. They give for begin to organize say for refugees and be taken care of. Wait till diaspora they do. Wait till diaspora they do when people the way that they inside the republic own jail, own dungeon, give for begin to organize for take care of the most vulnerable of our people. That one our failure. And if we fail at that very basic level for sure responsibility to take care of the most vulnerable of our people, how we will handle bigger and higher issues like diplomacy and self-defense. So I want to tell our people, say, make them choose we. Would you try to put ourselves together for get this thing right? I want to make our leaders then when they're for diaspora, our leaders when they're for jail, make we go back to the drawing board for reorganize ourselves. For make sure say this thing, this change we will say we want and for see and make it come about, make we start develop the kind of maturity to organize ourselves to be able to get help to the people that need it the most at the time which is necessary. So we must go sort ourselves and we must go back, we must fix some capo. We must fix them, we must get our act what people they look up to we. Especially when we're there for diaspora. Me and you agree for you, so be not with me for our side. So why I not go giving my time and my energy and my effort? For say I go that's resources that for ground zero.
And the boy where the talk and promise we see the. Thank you very much, Dr. G, for accepting our invitation and coming to the view, to the interview. It's a frank conversation with you. We are very, very happy to have you, and we hope sometime in the future we will have you again. And to our people for Ground Zero, we then come to the end of this show, and we will expect to get another show of the interview with a frank conversation with another patriot. So I want to talk of all our people them say we will continue to fight for our struggle because now a legitimate struggle. Our people they die every day from this unfortunate situation we then deal with like the public they don't can hold our country, take away our sovereignty. We owe all those that don't die for this struggle for do the right thing. I want to tell our people and say we'll be a democratic people and debate a part of a democratic process so that we will be efficient for anything we'll do. We want to advise our people then for this program, the interview, say our discussion need be heated because of the gravity of the challenges and we'll face them as a people. At no time should anybody take criticism in Ambazonia as attack on the leaders. Criticism, as we see for many countries, the way they succeed, like America, now because they allow people them for express themselves, they need to antagonize journalists and people the way they ask questions. So we for this show, me and Lucas Asu, would then take the mantle for stand up for this show, for ask the strong question the way all the various constituencies them for Ambazonia, the one time we will ask them for our leaders them. So we always try for get question when I feel reach with directly for the AC and their number for give una question the way una want to ask them for the leaders them or for even suggest the guests them we'll go get them for our next show. We will continue for begin remain truthful, for engage all the leaders them we'll go bring them for this show, for ask them the challenging questions them without fear or favor, and for make sure say we no go the show pacha for any leader, but we will put Ambazonian first in anything we will do. We will pray say make our liberation phase it can finish, make our independence, make freedom for inside our country Ambazonia, make it go be forevermore. Once more, na me Capo Daniel, and we'll then come for the end of this show, and our program will go continue for the road. Thank you very much.
Stay tuned on ACN TV. We will be right back.